as always, guys, I'm so glad you're tuning in for another episode with us where we are digging into the real challenges, the lessons, and getting insights from the roller coaster ride that we call entrepreneurship. So today I am joined by three incredible guests who bring some unique insights to the table. What we will do is we'll be talking about scaling businesses, navigating challenges as entrepreneurs in general, and basically just how to balance it all without losing sight of what matters most to us. This episode's just going to be packed with a bunch of wisdom. I'm super excited to get into it. So without further ado, let's jump into some introductions. Christy and Lorenzo, we'll go ahead and start with you both. Tell us a little bit about yourselves and the story behind your new venture, Lefties.
All right. My name is Christy Ouei. I own Mule Kick and Lefties in Magnolia, Arkansas. Two restaurants with two completely different concepts, but a very similar business model with each. And that is really based around staff development and helping to make them good participating humans of society, not just about how to roll pizza dough. That's not what we're about. I've been a business owner since 1996 and have seen some very different circumstances, but I've had no classical training in any of what we currently do. I found my love of hospitality in convenience stores of all things and have transferred that to fine dining and fast casual in these two. Very unconventional way to come from it. I don't boil water, and I have not had the first management restaurant class, but our team has come together and it seems to work for us really. We're like the island of misfits that works together and makes a whole. Lorenzo?
I'm Lorenzo. I am the business development manager and marketing and branding manager for both Mule Kick and Lefties. I had zero interest or plans to join the hospitality industry ever. And now it is one of my absolute most favorite things to do. I guess my journey towards that started when I was 9 or 10 years old, and I started developing websites and doing graphic design. And I didn't know I was laying the foundation for branding and marketing strategies at the time. And I was doing that freelance into my 20s, and I bumped into Christy, and I could do some things that she said she needed. And I'd really never met a business owner in Arkansas who knew that they needed the things that she knew that those companies needed, and she was attempting to do herself. And then I was doing that, just doing the work. I liked it. But then as we've developed Lefties, I have found myself falling in love with the data and the analytics and building internal and external experiences for our staff, efficiency, cohesiveness, as well as for our guests. And we try to utilize as much information and technology and data as we can. And that has spiraled into this whole new thing. And I've fallen in love with the industry that I said I would never step foot in when I was 16 years old at my first high school job. I like to have a good time. And what I realized I like even more is having an influence and impact on the good times that I had in social settings like restaurants and bars.
That is awesome. Lorenzo, Christy, thank you guys both so much for being here. When we were talking earlier and you guys had shared that Lefties was named the best restaurant in Arkansas for 2023, it's no small feat. And definitely, even though you guys have different backgrounds, it sounds like it was a great thing that you were able to cross paths and work together to create something so good.
Sure.
So I'm super excited to get into that with you guys. And Brandon, I'd like to hear from you next. Tell us a bit about your background and what inspired you to start your business.
Yes. So my name is Brandon D. Campbell. I'm an award-winning entrepreneur, writer, producer, and nationally recognized economic developer. Before I got into business, my background started in entertainment. So I was a producer for E! Entertainment, World Wrestling Entertainment, NBC, and various other networks. A lot of people from my home state of Arkansas knows me as the founder of Little Rock Fashion Week, which I founded back in 2009. I left my career behind in entertainment, and I wanted to create something that was going to be impactful and open doors for so many other people, especially in the entertainment space. So I was very successful there, ended up launching other fashion weeks in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, as well as Plano, Texas. And so over the past 7 years, I've been really focused in economic development. I saw that there is a need for entrepreneurs to find the resources necessary for their businesses to really start and grow. And so over the past 7 years, before launching my new adventure, 4i Solutions, in the public sector. So I've helped my clients secure over $15 million in capital, fostering growth and innovation across diverse industries. But while I was doing this over the past 7 years, I still saw that there were gaps that were needed. A lot of the work that we were offering to our clients was like a one-size-fits-all model, and it didn't necessarily meet the clients and the communities and the businesses where they are. And so I started 4i Solutions, which is a consulting and coaching firm dedicated to creating customized strategies that drive outcomes and impact, inclusion, innovation, and inspiration. Hence, my 4 I's. With the passion, my passion is empowering communities and organizations, especially people of color, women, and other underserved communities. What I've done is leverage my expertise in areas such as marketing, entertainment, event planning and management, data and analysis, research, economic development, as well as media and public speaking to help facilitate transformative results. And I'm so excited that I am now working full-time as a founder on this roller coaster, as we call entrepreneurship. Thank you for having me.
I know when it comes to working on yourself and the business, as we said earlier, it goes hand in hand. And I think that's a lot of entrepreneurs struggle out there. So with that being said, that takes us to the main segment of our podcast, guys. As we all know, the name of the podcast, Business is Effing Hard. Each of us have faced unique challenges on this roller coaster ride. And what I'd like to do is unpack those and just have a real conversation about the hardships that we face as entrepreneurs. So Christy and Lorenzo, we'll start with you guys. Scaling a business in a small town while maintaining the high standards of hospitality that you guys are known for, I'm sure that's no easy feat. So from your perspective, what would you guys say has been the biggest challenge for you so far, and how are you working through it?
Lorenzo, I'm going to defer to you to the first part of that question, or to the initial answer of that question, and I'll follow up after you. But he's got a lot of recent new knowledge under his belt, and I think hearing from his perspective first would be great.
So I think that the biggest challenge is that, it's dynamic. A lot of those were our biggest challenges at the time, and we solved them. And so I think that it's still important to highlight those things that we solved, but other people may need help solving those things. Opening with Lefties, and Christy solved so many of these things that we don't have time to list them all before I even came into the picture, which it's a feat in and of itself, opening Mule Kick in a recently wet county. But in getting a culture to accept and stay out later and do things in a town, in a county that has never existed since Prohibition. It's been dry, right? Changing the culture and just going like, hey, it's okay. Everybody would leave our town and go to surrounding towns, Shreveport and Texarkana and Little Rock. And we wanted to create that same thing in our town. One of the largest challenges for Lefties with that has been people don't think that a thing like Lefties should or could exist in that. We just started with consistency, basically, with our team. We don't have sous chef or classically trained chef. It's all done by people that are just putting boots on the ground and learning these things. But we do it consistently, and that has provided us an enormous value, I think, in opening Lefties. More recently, it's once we started EOS about 8 months ago or 7 or 8 months ago, and it propelled us into a new territory internally and with our guests externally. We started putting some of these new ideas and the foundation of who we were into writing, and it was into practice, and it became who we were. And so now we're having almost rapid growth, right? And we're facing a challenge because Lefties is not a traditional. It opens at 10 a.m. and closes at midnight, 6 days a week. It's open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, from 4 to about midnight. And so we are trying to fit as many people as we can in those time frames, and we are, but we're growing and still maintain the quality of staff in the back of house, front of house, and then also figure out new creative ways to come up with revenue streams. Since and for the market that we're in, we think those days are right for us, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And we've done that. We talked about, we saw that subscription memberships among restaurants was growing like post-COVID, and we tossed the idea around. And so we came up with a private membership club, like a social club. They can pay an annual fee and they get all these different perks, different things that we just had to come up with it, honestly, like fast passes for cocktails. So if they join us on busy weekend nights, they can use this fast pass as a private club member, and they can jump the line with cocktails. We've never seen that before. So that was a huge issue for us initially. And just have that revenue stream, and you still have labor costs, right? But we're coming up presently with creative ways. We have private events right now. We have had one probably every day for the last 3 weeks and will until the holidays are over. So those are some issues that we have faced. The next thing is, I think, maintaining the level of consistency with the staff, because people are going to move on. Christy talked about, we want to develop our staff. We don't want them to work there for 10 years or 12 years. We're in a college town too. We want them to learn their things, and for the most part, they're going to move on. But scaling internally is probably our biggest challenge right now. I don't think we have room right now to scale externally, but if we scale internally, we'll figure that out.
Absolutely. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. With hospitality in general, like we said, when you have a product as high touch as hospitality, you need to have the right people to match your vision and execute it, like you said, from the front of the house to the back of the house, across the board. And I love that you guys operate on EOS. We do as well. And so it sounds like, looking at your 10-year vision for you guys, it might look different among others, among your team. And when it comes to delegating and elevating those responsibilities, that can be a challenge, I think, for a lot of other entrepreneurs and other businesses, is how do we go about scaling in a way that's right for the business, but that's also right for the vision of our team members that make up the business. And thank you both for sharing that. Christy, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
So in having those two dynamically different business models, it is a struggle for probably me and Lorenzo more than any of the rest of our team, because we work at both locations and trying to have that mental mind shift of going fine dining to fast casual, fun, eclectic, funky, and making that shift to make sure both locations get what they need from us, and we have to change our approach and change how we work that. For me, the delegate and elevate quadrant has been a struggle. Mike, I'm a huge proponent of books, and Michael Gerber's book, The E-Myth and The E-Myth Revisited. So when we started, I had my name in all of those spots. And now I've got names in some of those spots, but some of the stuff that I should have passed down to other people 4 and 5 years ago, I'm still hanging on to. Yesterday, not even 24 hours ago, I hired someone to deal with my email. I should have done that a long time ago. And they're going to start wading through 45,000 emails and classifying them and whatnot. But the challenge of us growing and needing those people, those passionate people in spots, knowing that internal and external growth that Lorenzo was talking about is there and is fed and has momentum, while realizing that it has to be funded at the level that we are now. We may need a Dreamweaver is the next position in our on our bus that we're filling, and we need somebody that knows all of our members' birthdays, anniversaries, kids' birthdays, any special adoption dates, gotcha dates, all those things, dogs' names included, chocolate cake or ice cream. And we need those things, but what level can I afford it at Thursday, Friday, Saturday? How do I hire someone that shares my vision and can hang on with me? And I'm like, I'm going to start you at this, but hold on. If you can own this position and grow it, then you will provide the value that I can fund your position at. As much value as you put in, as much you've got to increase that value. So finding those people with the spark, with the passion of hospitality and how they can contribute to that, I would think is our big struggle. When we go to conferences and we listen to people and we listen to the speakers, inevitably, Lorenzo and I are standing around afterward going, okay, we've done everything you said, plus 10 other things. And what we really need is now what? Where do we go now? We need the next level conference. And I think that's going to help us lead our teams to more growth. We just have to figure that out.
Absolutely. Christy, I actually, while you were talking, I was jotting down some notes here. I've got some ideas myself from just what you were initially talking about, because in our team at Business is Effing Hard podcast, but also at Semper Smart LLC, which is what our podcast operates under, I am in a HR position, if you will. I wear multiple hats and I really enjoy doing so. And part of HR is truly that, treating employees more than just a number, knowing their birthdays, knowing what makes them tick outside of work, and knowing what their personal 3-year, 5-year, 10-year goals are. It's a matter of all working together. And I've had some different kind of platforms that I've used to help automate that. And I'm sure, hopefully, Brandon has some insights for you guys as well. But before we get into that, Brandon, I will pivot to you here. Earlier, you were speaking about the internal challenges of being an entrepreneur, particularly for you around balancing your passion for giving with also the need to prioritize your business, yourself, and of course, your family. Can you share a little bit about how you've been navigating that?
Yes. And so for me, going back to just the career that I've had over the past 7 years in economic development, was recently I was coming off of a $230 million broadband deployment project, which I helped facilitate across the Black Belt region of Alabama, making over 6 figures in salary. But then now starting my own business again and working full time. That challenge has been a mindset shift for me, because now I have to really be thinking about not just others and providing fantastic service, because I'm a service driven individual by nature. I love to give. I love to watch other people succeed and shine and just really play in the background. So being a consultant and a coach is really, something that really fits my personality. But however, as you were just mentioning, I have to be able to have that paradigm shift and learn to really balance and just be uber focused on this and to recognize when I'm veering off in a sense. So for instance, be giving, be selfless, that's who I am in nature. But at the same time, I have to remember to put my baby, which is my new business for our solutions, first. and I have to feed it. I have to nurture it as well as myself and prioritize and make sure my family is taken care of as well too. And it's interesting for me. I sometimes find myself really talking to myself in my own head because a lot of times entrepreneurship, what a lot of people don't really realize, it's the battle between yourself. It ain't even so much about the competition, which is important to know what they're doing, but you only can go as far as you allow yourself to go. So I sometimes will find myself giving myself advice and coaching myself the same way I would coach my clients, clients I've coached all across the country. And then stop and then tell myself, okay, now go do it. You're really good at giving advice and you made a fantastic name for yourself and career. Now it's about you stepping in front of your business and not hiding behind it like I've done previously in the work that I've done. Because when you are starting something new in somewhat of a crowded industry, so to speak, you have to find a way to distinguish yourself. You have to be able to tell your story and brand yourself as well too. And so I just really been taking in a lot of those key anecdotes over the years that I provided to my clients and then giving it to myself. And another thing that I'm really mindful of in this act that I'm in, I call life. You have several different acts. So I consider this to be my third act. And so in this third act, being a lot more patient with the business and really nurturing and being very selective about the clients that I want to work with, those clients that fit my values, clients who have a growth mindset as well. And so for me, it's about being strategic while at the same time still flying the plane, steady planning and innovating. And that's some advice I almost definitely want to leave behind is that your planning phase never really ends in business. You have to continue planning and got to continue innovating. And so those are some things that I've been overcoming. One thing we talked about earlier is that as an entrepreneur, who you are and your character, not necessarily your reputation, it's going to reveal itself when you're running a business because there's a lot of ups and downs. I said at first, it's a roller coaster. And the roller coaster is going to send you all over the place. And you have to be able to maintain a balance mentally and emotionally. Because if you have not dealt with yourself and continue to work on yourself, your business is going to suffer too. You're going to see your issues in your interpersonal environment and relationships can carry over to your professional relationships. So you have to be really mindful of that. And so I encourage any entrepreneur out there, I truly believe any business owner, entrepreneur, you should have a therapist on speed dial. I don't know, maybe a 1-800 number you can call. Practice self-care, mindfulness, doing nature walks, whatever it is that keeps you grounded and humble and really focused on the task at hand and also the bigger picture. It's now working remotely. That has its own challenge because I'm an ambivert. I'm someone who loves to work by myself, but then I love to be in front of people as well too. And being in an environment where I don't have a lot of relationships on the ground in this community that I'm in. However, trying to continue to be intentional and purposeful about building certain relationships. And I've just learned to be more strategic of my time. And I think that in you all's case, when you were talking about your time, I think it's a matter of really deciding your priorities. And I love to use the Eisenhower method and the quadrant method, doing what you can do, delegating what you can't do. Also, is there something that other people can do, but you can help and support? Yeah, you can do that as well by training them and then empowering them at the same time. And so that's a method I love to use as far as my time management. And I really liked what you all were saying about using tools and technology on EOS. Those types of tools is very important. Now with AI can be your best friend, especially as a business in its growth phase, or even if your business is in its startup phase. I think that you utilizing the tools necessary is going to help create a more efficient process. I love process. I love coming in, diagnosing issues and challenges, and then collaborating with my clients to help resolve those challenges as well. I know challenges is going to always be around the corner, but I'm always going to be open to learning new things. And that's what I love about what I do. I'm always learning. But as a consultant or a coach, you're always learning. And I have a passion for learning. So I'm just very excited about this path that I'm in and what the journey is where the journey is going to take me.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing, Brandon. And it's really powerful, and the insight. And I think it's something that a lot of us can really relate to, that struggle of wanting to give so much to others and sometimes forgetting to feed our own baby, as you put it. Mental health and self-care both are so critical. They're just as important, as you said earlier, as physical health and as your work output as well. So I'm glad you brought it up. And I actually, earlier, I turned my camera off, and it was because I had to grab my little positive potato that sits right on top of my camera. It says, I may be a tiny potato, but I believe in you. Go do your thing. And I keep it, my mom got it for me actually a couple of years ago. I keep it up there as a reminder to give that same positivity that I give to others to myself, because you have to believe in yourself in order for others to believe in you as well.
I most definitely agree with you. That is what is so important in business. And being an entrepreneur and a business owner is a very lonely path a lot of times, a very lonely journey that a lot of people don't really understand. They don't get. You're going to have family members or your mom or your dad wondering, why you just want to send out your resume and go and get a job and be comfortable. But as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you just have this desire to be more, to provide more, to impact more, to change lives. And it's not about money, so to speak, especially if you work in your passion or in your dharma and you're creating avenues, utilizing your skill set and what the needs are and what you're passionate about. It never feels like work. And the money and all of that's going to come. And so it's one of those things where I even say it's like an addiction. I think entrepreneurs are addicted to change. They're addicted to solving problems and issues and helping others through utilizing their own skill set and talents. And I'm one of those people that I like to create opportunities for others. That's my passion. I discovered what my passion was back in 2007. I was reading the book, Purpose Driven Life. And I remember one of the first questions it said, finish this sentence. Life is blank. And at the time I said, life is hard. And then as I was reading, I said, oh, I got to change that. And then I discovered that my passion and my purpose on this planet, Brandon D. Campbell, is to utilize my talents, my skills, my creativity to provide opportunities for others. And when the opportunities or the doors are not there for me to unlock and open for others, go build the door. And that's what led me to establishing and founding Little Rock Fashion Week. People thought I was crazy. People were like, who was this guy? What is Brandon doing? Brandon from Central High School trying to do fashion? And so I relate to what you all were mentioning about you're starting this business in a culture, in a market where people don't get it. They don't understand it. For 10 years, individuals kept calling my fashion week the fashion show. Oh, Little Rock Fashion Show. No, it's a week. It's a lot of activities, a lot of work that goes into it. And you have to slowly but surely educate, but at the same time, integrate your community into what you are doing and understand that. Now I had to understand this as well too. I think Mark Cuban said this when he had bought the Dallas Mavericks. He said that one of the biggest problems that he ran into was he bought the Dallas Mavericks and he thought the Dallas Mavericks was his. Like, this is my business. I spent hundreds of millions of dollars. I own the Dallas Mavericks. No, you don't. The community owns the Dallas Mavericks. Your ticket buyers own the Dallas Mavericks. And so that's how I run my business, especially in the entertainment community-driven entities that I've owned. It's to really put people first, and everything else is going to take care of itself.
Brandon, and you're exactly right. You know, something that I often heard and thought about quite a bit growing up was, if you're passionate about what you do, if you love what you do, then you'll never work a day in your life. And to always choose what you're passionate about, not what's going to make the most money. And I can clearly see that for you, that rings true. Your passion is definitely contagious, and it's great advice as well for expanding and tapping into that small community. You have to put into the community what you're wanting out of them. And so growing with the community, supporting each other, that's what it's all about. Really, Brandon, I think Christy, both of you guys mentioned a couple of books earlier. And one of the books, I wrote this down earlier when we were talking about finding the right people in the right seats, so to speak, for your team. And are you familiar with the author Patrick Lencioni by chance? Christy,
yes, I heard the name. Can't call a book title, but yes, often frequently referenced.
Okay, perfect. Patrick Lencioni, I bring him up all the time. I might have already plugged him in a previous podcast episode, but one of the other hats that I wear at Semper Smart LLC is being our recruiting manager. So I do all of our initial interviews, and it's based off of Patrick Lencioni's book. And it's called The Ideal Team Player. And basically, the whole summary of the book is an ideal team player is made up of 3 different virtues. And that's humble, hungry, and smart. And not smart from an IQ sense, but rather being able to read the room and read what people are actually saying without saying it, so to speak. And from that, there's a questionnaire that he developed, and I use it in all of my initial interviews because it gives me the right insight that I need on, okay, is this the ideal team player for our company? Is this going to be just as much of a good opportunity for this person as it would be for our team? And some of the questions on there aren't typical interview questions. And I preface that at the beginning of the interview, but oftentimes I'll always send out a feedback survey after that initial interview, and I get really positive feedback. People say it's not the typical interview style questions, but it really allowed me to open up more about my work experience and just who I am in a standard interview. And so I wanted to give you guys that. It's definitely my favorite book by him, and it's totally changed the way that we do recruiting. So
when I first started coming around Mule Kick, when I started working with Mule Kick, and Christy would have group interviews or even individual ones, some of the questions she would ask them were, what does the color 9 smell like? And it's just to get a grasp on, are you willing to think out of the box first of all? Or are you just going to say, this is stupid? If you said, this is stupid, this one, then you weren't hired automatically. There were several other ones like that. It was put each other in order from tallest or to shortest or oldest to youngest based off of a small amount of information. And then I think in one memorable instance, I can remember that there was a girl who took charge and she was moving everybody, but she wouldn't take anybody else's suggestions about maybe that person was 18 or 19, but she was the clear decision maker and leader, right? And it didn't work out for her. either. I think she still got hired, but that interview process proved that was going to be the way that thing was going to be anywhere. So those unconventional. But and Mule Kick and Lefties would have, I think, two different ways to apply that. Obviously, I don't think those are questions we would ask at Lefties, maybe as starter ones, but there would definitely be follow-up ones. But at Mule Kick, especially early on, it was, are you willing to think out of the box? Are you willing to entertain different things? Because we're going to bombard you with different things, and we expect you to bring different things just to see if anybody even gives it a shot. You don't have to be an artist. Just show me you're willing to try something different.
Absolutely. We're not looking for Picasso. We're looking for what makes you. And I love, it's the best way to do it rather than asking the typical, what's your greatest strength? What's your greatest weakness? Yeah. I still do ask those questions, but one of the interesting questions we ask is, what is something you do that others in your personal life find annoying? And it always throws people off. They're like, wait a minute, I wasn't prepared to walk into this interview and talk about something I do that annoys people. Like, I want to present myself in the best way. And so everybody's got that one or two just unique quirks about themselves that others in your personal life, they love you, but they do point it out. And so we're not looking for you to be perfect. We're looking for you to be able to make light of those things and embrace who you are, because that's who we are and that's what we want. Definitely, it sounds like you guys are going the right way about it, right? Having those unconventional interviews to figure out, okay, this is maybe an ideal team player, but not for our team, or this is exactly who we want. That's awesome.
So if you'll give me just 1 second to double back on a thing Brandon brought up earlier about, he's just said, the battle within yourself and stepping out. It's fear-based, right? And not, I'm afraid, but it's deep-rooted fear, whatever the fear is of our failures, and owning your stuff. But if you got yourself taken care of, that gives you a little bit more energy to step forward and own it a little bit more. Christy was giving a speech at our college business to some business students a couple of weeks ago, and she asked if they had questions, and I knew they had questions, and I'm around there probably 12 up 16 hours a day, either talking or physically. But I raised my hand and I asked her a question, and I wasn't a student in the class. I was just there to watch. And I said, what do you personally do to overcome the intangible fears that all entrepreneurs have, right? Like, how do you create your baby? And then you have to release it to the world and all of their criticisms and all of those things. So, and I asked her that because Brandon, you were talking about changing the culture of places and then integrating them. We're in Mule Kick, one bar that was selling alcohol, but not only, maybe there was one that opened and failed, but when Mule Kick opened, Christy was going to be a coffee shop, and then overnight, almost it turned into 30 taps of craft only beer. No Michelob, no Budweiser, no Bud Light, no thing that people in South Arkansas like. And all the distributors said, you're going to fail. But she owned it. She decided what was going to differentiate herself. And even me knowing all those things, I go, but still, how do you get past the fear? How did you get past the fear of still making that decision? The data's telling you, everybody's saying you're going to fail. People are coming in and going, what is this crap? Now, if you walk into Walmart in our town, it's lined with craft beer at the front door. Every convenience store, every liquor store is flooded with craft beer, right? But in hindsight, it seems like a great decision that she made. Going to Austin and Dallas and going all over these new places that have craft breweries and microbreweries, bringing that back to a town of 10,500 people that just accepted the sale of alcohol, period. And saying, here, now try this more expensive, different tasting beer. and it will work. So it might, and maybe she has an answer for us too. I think it'd be valuable to know. But I did ask her, it's like, how did you get past the fear of that? It seems like it's an easy decision in hindsight, but she owned the decision she made, and it has worked out incredibly well for me.
Several different reasons why you shouldn't do it, and not enough reasons on why you should. And it goes back to believing in
Christy,
yourself.
So what
and
is it that you do to push past that inevitable fear that entrepreneurs have, and especially in decision making like that?
What did I say that day?
You said, fear is not real. I don't have time to accept it. I just forge forward. That's what you said. And I'm like, okay, but
yeah,
these
I'm
scholars seem
sitting
to-
here thinking I don't remember saying a fear, and I don't remember.
Yeah, you said I don't
you know,
understand it. You said I don't understand it. I think what you said was I don't think I'm going to fail. And so when you said that, I remember thinking that's not the only kind of fear. I guess maybe to you it could have been, but I wasn't thinking about the fear of failure when I asked that question. I was just thinking the fear of just the vulnerability in as an entrepreneur. Brandon, I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about too. It's vulnerable when you create this thing and you spend all this energy and time, and then you have to release your baby to the world, and they can call it ugly. They could choose not to deal with it, but you still have to force forward that. And I think that was the kind of fear I was referring to in the class auditorium.
Little Rock Fashion, we gave up my entire career in entertainment, making a lot of money to come back and do something I wasn't too sure of. A lot of people don't notice, but I was scared shirtless. A lot of times for me playing the person in the backfield, I don't know if anybody play or familiar with football and the positions. To give you an idea of my personality, I play cornerback. Out on the island, you just do your job. I've taught my daughters the same thing. My daughters play goalie. I said, no one is paying attention to you until someone scores on you or until you make a play. And so I got very comfortable with just being in the back. Now I have to be the quarterback.
Right.
I have to be the center who touches the ball every single play.
Which in this particular scenario, opening a new restaurant with dirty craft beers in the entire town has their eyes on you going, what the hell are you doing? And also, we don't drink beer here. We don't drink alcohol here in this country. What are you doing bringing all of this? Seeing, for better or worse, even if they meant it or not, it was just culturally ingrained in the region. And it's not right or wrong. It's just the way things had always been. But still, I just imagine that took an incredible amount of courage. I know it did. I don't imagine. I know it did to face that and go, all right, we're still opening the doors on June 5th and see you then. Hope you'll show up. And I put everything I have into this financially and whatever. And believing in that's next level, man. I want not to be understated.
I wanted to add, one book that has really helped me with understanding fear is a book called Untethered Souls.
Yeah, I read it.
And you have to get to a point where you recognize the fear or you recognize the emotion as it's your roommate, right? Your mind sometimes is your roommate, and it gives you terrible advice, just like it gives you good advice. And so that emotion of fear is your mind, in a sense, trying to help you by using experiences from your past. And here's the thing. Sometimes the experiences are not experiences that you actually really experience. Sometimes there's generational trauma because you might have an ancestor who a lot of hardship because they try to go out on a limb. We know we live in this country where a lot of sacrifices were made by our ancestors, and that DNA that can get passed down. And so during a public speaking engagement, you feel fear. And so what I've learned is to sometimes I talk to it. I'm like, I've succeeded at this a lot of times before. I experienced worse. And it just shuts up.
Generally is an illusion. I agree with you. Generally,
you're not real.
So evolution too. So anytime I'm afraid now, I go, this is my body still thinking that I can be chased down and eaten by a saber-toothed cat, right?
Exactly.
This is not a real thing. This is an illusion. Mm-hmm. It's an evolutionary thing. But psychologically, and especially in entrepreneurship or any creative endeavor, artistry, overcoming that fear or not could make or break you.
Yeah, for me, it's about in those moments, facing the fear, it's acknowledging that it's there. Okay, I'm feeling a little bit nervous. The nerves are there, but I'm going to show up and I'm going to do this anyway. Because if you don't get out of your comfort zone in life, personally and professionally, if you're not pushing yourself to get out of your comfort zone, you're not going to grow. And looking at where I am today, 7th grade, Kinsey Houston might have not jumped at the idea of being on a podcast and being the host. And I love it. I love getting to meet with amazing people like you guys each week and getting to hear, even though we are in different industries, we're all at the end of the day just people that are chasing our passion. And that's what we should be doing. There will be times where fear creeps in, but that doesn't mean you should give it up. And that's what makes it worthwhile.
Christy, did you just never have the fear? I'm not asking this because it's a question of the advice on how to get over the fear myself, but I would like to know, did you have data to back your decision, or did you just not feel the fear at all? The fear that everybody feels, it invested everything into something. When maybe the fear is not starting it, but doing it the way that you decided to do it versus a way that you probably felt more comfortable. Then what led you to ultimately make the best decision in spite of all the potential resistance?
Deciding that's what we wanted to create. And I think maybe backwards from that creating this restaurant was an avenue for me to do what I really wanted to do, which was human development, growing my staff, being an incubator for the businesses around to get their staff from, and to give these kids a leg up. The restaurant, in the shape that it took, made the most sense, because it's it's probably not the only thing I know how to do, but it's the thing I knew how to do that would probably turn the dollars the fastest, to have income so that I could do what I really wanted to do. We traveled, we looked, we saw craft beer was coming, and doing things on my own terms has always been what I've done. And that wasn't the first time that somebody told me it wasn't going to work. And so as long as you decide it's going to work and you're going to be flexible and you're going to adapt to the market until it does work, it's going to work. It may not work like you thought it would. And if you don't, as one of my latest books says, if you don't live in a destinational path and where you have predetermined what you're going to end up in the end, and you're more directional, we're going to head in this direction. This is the direction I want to go. I may have turned right, left, turn around, but I'm heading this direction. And so we headed that direction. I can't say for sure right now that if craft beer didn't go, that we might have introduced something, but I was going to have to go pretty darn broke before I decided I was going to put Mick Ultra on tap. And there's not one on tap. It worked. We had to morph. We had to change. We had to grow. But ultimately, it worked. And I think that entrepreneurs have to ignore a large portion of the fear that other people see in their ventures, because they would not do it otherwise. If I could speak to one of Brandon's things a moment, Kenzie, do you have that kind of time?
Yeah, absolutely. As long as you guys do this, we'll keep on going.
And such a passion for what you're doing that I only wrote down one thing as something that might be helpful in the avenue of what you were looking for here. And that is the idea of and the practice of positive intelligence. Mm-hmm. It's a Shirzad Sharmin. Are you familiar with him?
No.
He's an Egyptian, I'm pretty sure. But he has the app it says PQ, and I think right now it's yellow, but it's a whole self-awareness, and not in the woo sense, not that woo's bad, but not in the woo sense. And it's taking care of self, but it's integrated into your daily life. And it reminds you join a group and you have this group of people that you meet with that you only know in this group. And then you meet with him, and he has one thing that I do still is when I feel like I'm not in the moment or it's getting away from me, two of the activities that he says to bring you back to, I need to breathe, I need to focus, I need to calm all the monkeys in my mind, is rub your thumb and your pointer finger together And what you're looking for is feeling the individual fingerprint. And you have to concentrate on that. Or when I'm driving and you cannot focus on anything else other than the speed limit and keeping it between the two lines, then finding that you can't worry, you can't stress, you can't do anything because that takes such attention. And then that's enough to break that spiral of worry. And I'm very much like you in that sometimes the thoughts in my head are so loud, I wish I could mute them. And there's not that button. So that really helps when I think I'm hyperventilating, I'm sinking, I've got myself on this downward spiral of thought, but yet I'm smiling and I'm saying, hey, how are you? And so proud you've come in here. And my head's going crazy. So I can step into the back and just for a second and do that. And it brings me back to the moment. So that and all the things that you hear and read, and they're all about start this morning routine and the 4 a.m. club. I ain't joining the 4 a.m. club. It's not happening. Now, I might get up early sometimes on a routine, but not that. But definitely having a 5-minute routine and you doing that every day will allow you to be there for you so that you can be there for your family. And I'm certainly not an expert on that because I wear a shirt that says no days off. And just last week, I decided, you know what? That's not my mantra. That can't be my mantra. I can't show up for my team that way. I have to take days off. I threw the shirt in the trash can and took an actual vacation and came back better for them. And so that sure is odd. And it's just in case the spelling is funky. It's Shirzad is his first name, and Chamine is his second name, last name. And it's a course that you take, and then you can continue on with that. But you learn certain steps in there. And that was super helpful for me. And since that was the only part of your whole dynamic empire that really seemed like you were looking for, that's the one thought, and I really hope that helps.
Yes, it does. One thing about spirituality and growth is that it's a journey. It's something that's ongoing. You may think you have something figured out and something that you've learned over time, but you have to continue. You have to be consistent in finding ways to just get better, grow mentally, spiritually, also in your expertise as well too. I'm one of those individuals who I just believe that if you're not growing, you die. And so this past year has been so transformational for me, where putting self first has been such an experience that it has changed my personality more so from being just like an ambivert, as I mentioned, to even more so being an extrovert, understanding the beauty of life and showing up for me, not anyone else, getting in touch with my shadow self. Brandon at 9 years old, if I feel a certain way, feel a fear, what would Brandon at 9 years old do? How was Brandon at 9 years old? What was he like? Oh, I remember that Brandon. He would just go out and just do it. He would go and just talk to people and tell people what he wants and what he's going to do and things like that. And that's the person that I've really have grown to be more in tune with. So now that I'm in my third act, I'm doing everything that I want to do, that I'm led to do, because if the man above gives it to me, it's meant for me. I had an experience where not too long ago, just recent, where just a bad meeting. As an entrepreneur, you go like this most of the time emotionally. So you have those days. And then as soon as I started thinking like that, I get an email from a client, a big business deal. And it just reminds me that I'm doing what I need to be doing. So the same thing I've learned to tell that fear that at the end of the day, if you don't have opposition or no friction from the outside world, you ain't doing something right. Every great person, from a biblical sense to a person current, from a billionaire to the local person who's successful because they own a coffee shop. They have some type of friction. And that's just a sign to let you know that you're doing something right and that people see something in you, especially those who may not be aligned with your values or morals, see something in you that it threatens them. It makes them feel uncomfortable. So when you all were starting your business, people got uncomfortable. When I was starting my fashion weeks, people got uncomfortable, just like you were mentioning, Lorenzo. I'm talking about, I used to get calls in the middle of my day, would he say, she say stuff. And I'm like, I don't even talk to anybody. And you have to deal with all that type of like negativity that's really just there to veer you off your path towards your destiny, as you all just mentioned. And so you have
And ultimately, it's their own fears that are being projected, and you just guide them along the way, because I'm sure that they absolutely love Fashion Week now. It is such a normal thing. And I think that's okay too, that all of the resistance is not necessarily malicious. It's just everybody's doing and acting on the best level of their awareness and understanding that they can at the moment. And maybe if you just push through, then you guide them a little bit further along, and change is roaring inside of everybody. So you got your biggest roadblock. You may have helped them turn the tide that they were fighting inside themselves, and they're like, you know what, I actually really have been more on the bar with craft beer around here. Or I really have. Fashion Week makes our town seem more with the times. So it's actually cool. It's dope. Fashion is dope. It's art. Mm-hmm. And who knows what past that can lead them down. So yeah.
And you know what? Yeah. And I was going to say real quick, that is what makes me a very good business consultant and coach, because I'm relatable and I've lived it. And so every stage that a business is in, I've been in it, from the expansion, from the startup to the growth stage, to going into a whole new market in a city that you don't know anyone. And the fear, not even the fear, but the challenges that's there. And so by pouring into my businesses and also community leaders, and getting them to understand that I've been there as well too, I can relate to them, has been so good for my business, so good for me and my reputation and my relationships. And it's part of who I am. I'm just pouring into people, and seeing them succeed is the return, so to speak. And so, yeah, this has been a great talk.
It really has, guys. I personally have got so many insights, books that I'm going to read, quotes that I'm going to live by, write down in my journal later. I truly can't thank you guys enough for hopping on and talking with us today. And this has been our longest episode yet. And wow. I think it's, jam-packed with wisdom. So for those of you that did tune in on the live today, thank you so much. If you didn't, we will have this video edited by our lovely Jerwell behind the scenes. We'll get this posted next week so you guys can check out the insights. And that's all I got for us today. I'll go ahead and wrap it up. Christy, Lorenzo, Brandon, I will be sure to link all of your guys' social media profiles. They're in the final video. That way, if you guys want to connect with each other, or anybody from our audience wants to reach out to our guests, please do.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Kenzie.
Thank you so much as well, too. And I just wanted to mention that for the entire month of December, I'm offering free consultations for businesses, municipality leaders, all the way through the month of December. So you can reach out to me at 4isolutions.net.
Thank you, Brandon. And Christy or Lorenzo, I want to go ahead and give that same opportunity to you guys. Is there anything exciting that you guys wanted to promote before we wrap up today?
Yeah, I'll tell you a quick thing on Mule Kick, and I think Lorenzo is going to tell you about, we're going to divide and conquer. Lorenzo is going to tell you all about Lefties. Mule Kick celebrated its 5th birthday here, and we did a complete rebrand, and that brand new menu came out this weekend. We did new signs, new refresh of who we are and how we're showing up in the community, and the outreach that we want to do and the internal growth that we want to accomplish. So Mule Kick is recreating itself in its 5th year.
That is so exciting. Congratulations. And if I'm ever in the area, I might just have to make a trip down there myself. I am curious, so I'll have to check it out sometime soon.
And one more thing. So Lefties we talked about our private social member club. We had a great first year, successful first year. We were at about 100 members from multiple states, corporate memberships, ExxonMobil, Southern Aluminum, which are really big local companies. Obviously, Exxon is, and we're opening that 333 Club membership for 2025 right now. You can visit our website at leftiesonthesquare.com and see what the different tiers have to offer you individually or for corporate companies. And on December 31st, we're having our first annual New Year's Eve gala at Lefties. And we're going to, I think it's probably the first event of its kind in Magnolia, I would assume. And we're shuttling ticket members to and from there, so you don't have to worry about driving. We're sending a limousine bus to pick you up, even if you live in El Dorado. We'll come pick you up as part of your ticket and take you home at the end of it all. We've got lots of new things. Follow us at Lefties on the Square on any social media, and Mule Kick Mag, Mule Kick MAG, and keep up. We've got some cool new stuff that we're rolling.
Absolutely. Yeah. Be sure to check them out, guys. I know I'm going to, and you heard it here first. Lefties, Mule, and 4i Solutions as well. Lots of exciting stuff coming up for the three of our guests. Thank you guys again so much for this awesome conversation. And for those of you watching, remember, whether you're working through challenges or celebrating wins, this journey is yours. So stay bold, keep building, and remember, you've got this. Thanks, guys. And see you next time.
Thanks. Bye.